Welcome back to another episode of Let's Stay In.
I'm Anna, and this is Mark.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we got to give you that annoying reminder. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, comment. If there's a button, make sure you click it. Somehow, I think that helps us out.
With that being said, let's just jump right in.
Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Welcome.
How's it feel? You flew out here from Baltimore earlier today. Welcome to Los Angeles. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to Hollywood, baby.
Yeah, how we feeling?
At showbiz. It just hit me right this second. So great.
There we go. Are you nervous?
No.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, you're so relaxed.
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, now I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just kidding.
No, just kidding. We're not rolling at all yet. This is actually just for fun. So we're just going to run a mock podcast episode.
And she brought us these cute little shooters. So we're each having one.
Yeah.
Gray Wolf. Might be shampoo. Might be a shooter.
This is the first time anybody's ever shown up to the podcast with a
Minus
gift. Oh, minus
the
Kristen.
Mosé, minus the spicy rosé.
Shout out to Heartbeat. Shout out to Kristen over at
Yes.
Heartbeat. Yeah.
But take note, if you're going to be on our podcast, we want alcohol, candles.
Candles are great.
Yeah.
Shout out Evil Queen.
Kittens, snacks.
We got to, actually take, who knows? Maybe this will become a thing. People just bring random shit.
Yeah. Impress me.
Yeah, there we go. But, okay, give us let's just say you're sitting on a plane. You're sitting next to a guy. He's like, who are you? And he's like, give me the 30-second elevator pitch. Who are you?
Wait, is she attracted to him or not attracted to him?
I was going to say.
Because it would change.
Let's say,
You get friend vibes from him?
Yeah, it seems like a good time. Just
Okay.
good time.
A good dude.
Because it's two different reactions.
Okay, actually, you know what?
100%.
Okay, so what would your answer be if you're into him versus not into him?
Oh, God.
Well, it depends. Am I flirty, sexy? I'd be like, I'm the best person you'll ever meet.
You'd say that to somebody?
Absolutely never.
And you're single, so that checks out.
I'm your worst nightmare.
That's crazy that you're single.
Try
I
not
can't
to fall
imagine
in
why.
love with me.
Yeah, it's actually it's very interesting.
You're a
That's
chick from a
probably
rom-com.
because that's what comes out of my mouth. Actually,
Yeah.
no, I'm a little girl from Baltimore. I am little, but
This is
which
true.
you've pointed out a couple times. But yeah, no, I live in Baltimore. I'm from Miami originally. Went to Florida State, do the corporate thing. Medical device sales, worked for Pfizer, sold copiers out of school, thought I really wanted to be a boss woman, make a ton of money, support people in my life that I love and do fun things. And that's where I'm at now.
And now you're on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm hyper curious.
That's fair.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're doing great so far.
There we go.
Thank
You know what? Honestly, Anna, I think we've never done it yet. Should we try out one of those prompts and just see how it is? Maybe we'll cut it out
Ooh,
if it's not
fun.
if it's
Okay.
not good. We've never done this. We bought this box. We went to the bookstore, bought this box of just random prompts.
Oh, wow.
Icebreakers,
And we've-
deeper talk.
Yeah, we haven't
Okay.
done anything with it yet. We haven't used
Okay.
a singular one. So
Like, this is not going well. We got to pull out
no, it could
all the
be.
stops.
We have no idea.
Okay,
This
I'll
could
pull
be-
out two, and then I'll pick my favorite of the two.
Okay, go for it.
You like that?
Yeah,
Sorry,
let's
I'm
see.
bending them all. That's what I do to all the books that I own.
Yeah. You do. You destroy books. It's actually crazy.
I crease them. They're covered in Cheetos, sweat, tears. Oh, shit.
How many did you pull out?
I don't know why I made this instantly sexual. Where do you need to be thinking bigger? I hate that question. Do you like it? Because I can do a different one.
I don't love it.
Okay,
but,
pick a-
Expansion in your life.
I would say in my creative life.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to switch places with another person, who would you choose and why?
That question is anxiety inducing. I'm not sure. I
Good.
think switch places.
Just for a day, somebody. It could literally be Tom Brady.
It would be an animal, I think.
That would be
'Cause
low key kind of
they'd
sick.
just
What
be,
kind?
They'd be chilling.
Okay, everybody, which animal would you go with?
It would be a cat.
Cat.
They'll get to lay in the sun and bask.
Okay.
I already do that.
That's
Life of an influencer.
nice. So then it would be Anna.
Okay.
The problem is like the reason why I don't want to go animal, I'd rather go adult or human, is because I'm really worried that I would like it a lot better than being human. And then my 24 hours is up and I have to go back to like having OCD and stuff.
So
you wouldn't think that way about somebody else?
I would go, no, if it's just for a day, I'm like, okay, all humans have struggles. It's going to be somewhat similar. But if I'm just like a cat, especially a cat I own, there's no worries to be had. I would say a dolphin because I want something that's in a climate that's not, or a bird.
I love birds. It's a new thing for me. It's a new thing.
Like a bird watching thing.
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, and you're not that old.
It happened quick, I will say. I hated birds, hated them all, and now I love birds. They're very interesting.
You're like, that's a yellow-bellied warble gobbler.
No, I have an app for it.
Oh, do you have Seek?
Yeah. It's called Picture Bird. You take a picture of the bird. You can play its sound. It's very coastal grandmother.
It's very cool.
leaning in. And then there are these black crowned night herons right by my apartment, and it's a whole thing. There are these. I actually saw one this morning when I was on the way to the airport. But yeah, the bird thing happened real quick. So I would actually totally be a bird. But if I was a person, yeah, it's a tough one to answer on the spot.
Just be a cat then.
But it would be a man. It would definitely be a man. Just
why?
Because I would want to see what that's like.
Having a dick?
You want to helicopter it, don't you?
I would fully helicopter it.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever helicoptered my dick. I don't know what occasion I would just helicopter.
Are you okay?
That's like that's like, when you're a little girl peeing in the toilet. It's like a rite of passage.
But like, I don't.
Is it like an inability to do?
Okay, that's crazy. That's the disrespect is insane. The disrespect is insane. Listen, I can so helicopter that. I can jump rope with that shit.
Wow.
Mom's listening to this.
Yeah.
So is yours.
Yeah, sorry, Mom. Yeah, my mom's for sure going to listen to all of these.
Yeah,
That's rather unfortunate
so
that she's going to hear that comment. But
sorry.
I don't know. I just don't know what context I would be like maybe like.
It's like a Tuesday and you're by yourself.
And I'm just like let me helicopter my dick? What?
Yeah, like I'm having a great day today. Like, yeah,
let's make it better.
So one of my neighbors walks by and they're like, hey, is that guy helicopter?
You don't need to do it by a window. You could do it like with the blinds shut.
What are you thinking?
But again, I'm like, what context?
Mark, you're thinking
did
too
I just
much.
have a really great day? Did I just win a bet? Like winning a bet, maybe.
So are you one of those kids, or I already know the answer. Were you one of those kids that like you're in your room and you're like, I'm going to be the first kid that's ever done this, and you like high five yourself, do a somersault, make a weird sound, whatever, and you're like, I'm the only person on the planet that's done that sequence of events.
Sequence of events like
that weird sound. I'm the first person to make that sound. Do a high five and somersault.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's very interesting. I can't say yes to that, but I have done some weird shit where I'm like, this is it, especially when I was a kid, mainly with like dance routines. So that's cool. Kind of similar. But no, I think as a kid, I always knew I was very bizarre because of the noises that I made. Mm-hmm. The people who I attracted even as a kid. And as an only child, you just get into some really weird stuff.
You really do.
Yeah.
We're magnets for it. Mm-hmm. I used to do the creating of sounds thing for hours up in my room.
Give us some.
I'll do my scroll call.
Oh, God, this one's wild.
Okay, I'll give you my scroll call.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
That was legitimate.
No, sick.
That shit gets me every time. What the fuck?
No, I can do incredible things. And I can do incredible things with my face. My mom calls me rubber face. Oh, I'm not doing anything right now. Okay. You're like, oh, that is weird.
She's like, and then I can.
I can't. I can do anything.
That's crazy.
I'm an only child.
Yeah. No, I remember making some weird songs, and there's one that comes back to me and haunts me.
Okay, sing a couple of lyrics.
I have just the hook.
That's all you need.
This is definitely, I've never told anybody this. Should I like sing it?
No, 100%.
Okay, so this is me in my room with, a TV that had pay-per-view commercials that were rated R at night.
Do you want a beat or anything, or are you good?
Oh, no, I have it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
It's very sexual for what a 7-year-old would.
Oh.
But I
loved
loved the music when I was a kid. Like I was a big Britney girl, so it's like Britney adjacent.
Okay.
But it's absolutely terrifying.
Say it. You can close your eyes, or we can. How about we close our eyes?
Yeah.
Will that be better?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm in it. If I said it, I'm in it. So your body goes up and down. It even turns around. Side to side, diagonally. Ow! Frightened by your body. The way your body moves, it gets down to the groove.
Wait.
And that was it.
So you said a lyric there that was interesting to me. What about a bot?
Oh, frightened by your body.
Yeah, that was body. It took me a second, but I figured out body. Yep.
I thought it was like a robot moment.
No, that was like the nerves jumping out of my body.
And then diagonal. And then you say ow, which makes sense.
Yeah. And for some reason,
all right,
that's what stuck with me.
You know what I'm about to do?
I'm like taken aback right now by
I'm gonna reel in you two crackheads. This is. Listen, I'm gonna reel this in.
If I did anything weird when I was an only child, like a sequence, I'm like, I didn't make any weird noises.
I'm gonna reel this in. I'm gonna
the
reel
way
it
that
in.
our faces just went, like not even a laugh.
Yeah, that's
like,
a jump scare. Huge.
I'm gonna reel this in. I'm gonna reel this in. Okay.
Try.
I thought maybe the prompts would be a good way to get started. I didn't know it was gonna go this direction. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. So
You're playing structure.
here's the thing. I hate that this transition is going to be rough because it doesn't make sense, but I don't know how we transition from what we just witnessed.
Things don't have to make sense.
We just had squirrel calls. Like we're going to transition though. So here's what we're going to do.
I was sexual and then she sang a sexual song.
Listen. So we were, and this is a very abrupt. So people who are listening right now, they're like, wow, this is the most abrupt transition. It is. I just don't know how to transition from what we just witnessed. So with that, we were talking to Jess earlier today.
Ask your big question, Mark. What is it?
No, there's no big question. We were at lunch. We're talking about just things that like have affected our lives and things like that. And again, this is very abrupt. But you said that I don't. Is there another way easier to bring up that your dad was in prison? I don't know how else to bring that up.
Okay, I have an idea. Okay, so I love that we just covered this is all stuff that I would have normally talked with somebody about, like in the first 5 minutes, but instead we sat down. I'm like, so my mental health, and you're like, and so my dad went to prison.
Yeah,
and I want to talk a little bit about that. Is this an awkward segue?
No, I mean, I think me making those weird songs in my bedroom, like obviously I was the only child. What was I doing in my bedroom alone, listening to those songs? Doing my own thing, what was going on outside. I always had a really loving home, but my dad is a felon and he pretty much, it was a blue collar crime and he just pretty much made a sham company. We moved into like the most beautiful house. He renovated the whole thing. My dad had a Porsche, my mom had a nice Jeep. And one day it just kind of came crashing down. We had moved into a house that my uncle was going to flip after, the feds, I guess, came knocking. And then I was in my room with my mom. My mom and I were sleeping together because my dad snored. That was the answer. And the SWAT team came.
Oh, wow.
When you were sleeping?
Yeah, when I was sleeping.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 7.
Oh my God.
How vivid is your memory of
wait,
that?
I'm sorry. I was 9. I was 9.
Okay.
Very vivid. I remember when the SWAT team came.
And did you know what was going on?
I had no idea.
I mean, obviously, I don't feel like your dad was filling you in on did your mom? I mean, I don't know if we want to get into that involvement.
I don't know. I think my parents did a great job at like keeping me very like loved and protected with my family around me. I think like I went to sleepaway camp like a normal kid. I was in private school like a normal kid. Like, I mean, I was an only child, so I got into some weird stuff. But like I had like my best friend Max was my mom. Like my aunt Mary Scott, I say, is like my mom's best friend and her son. Like we were very close. So it wasn't like I was super isolated as an only child. Like I had very close friends and had a very normal life. But was there always like a sketchy element to my dad? Yes, it's not like we lived together, from the jump. I was born in Oregon. My dad was living in Miami at the time, moved back to Miami. My parents lived apart for a little bit, then together, then apart. Then we moved into this house together once the business started taking off. And then after that, obviously my dad went away. I went to camp like immediately after. And then after that, I would go with my grandma, my dad's mom, to see him in jail in Miami. We would wait outside like the hot. I mean, they treat visitors like prisoners. But, it was never really a question of, does my dad love me? Whatever. Like, I've always known my dad. Both my parents are like major hippies. I would say my dad more so. But he like ran Woodstock. Like, he was a big Woodstock guy, the first, So, and I always knew he was like in Miami during like the cocaine times and kind of had that like bad boy energy about him. He drove like fast cars. I remember, I think, and this is how my memory recalls it, but there was like a special on 60 Minutes about the tolls and how people were blowing the tolls, like the Easy Pass, Sun Pass. And I'm pretty sure there was like a screen grab of a photo, and it was me and my dad in his convertible Porsche, and they had identified him as like one of the people that were blowing all the tolls. So it was always like that vibe. We had a boat. He would like take me out on the boat. We would ride bikes. Like it was always like very high energy. He's super ADD. So, I always knew there was something different about it, but I didn't, he would sing, he would lay out at our pool and tan all day and just like blast yacht rock radio pretty much. So he was always eccentric. And when he went away, it was like nothing really changed between our relationship. What changed is like the money that we had was gone. So at that point we had to move, and that's why my mom and I went to Maryland. And then honestly, the best thing that could have ever happened to me was that, because I went from growing up in Miami where there's just a lot of money and
excess,
to like a white picket fence. Like I feel like I describe my middle school as like Ned's declassified school survival guide. Like that's the vision I had when I walked in. I was like, whoa, like this place is very like brick and white picket fence. And then I had an amazing upbringing. So like, honestly, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, I think. And my mom is literally the best person that I know. She's a rock star, and she carried us through it all and did what she had to do. And I think looking back on it, everyone used to tell me, oh, like you'll get through this. This doesn't define you. Like you'll go away to college and like, you don't have to tell anybody your story and like the hardships behind you. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like I had a lot of love in my life. Like, yeah, things were hard. I had a single mom, obviously. But when we moved to Maryland, my uncle, G, my mom's dad and my dad's sister's niece, or I'm describing that wrong. My cousins on both sides were around, and I had a lot of family around, and I made a lot of friends, and it was great. And then I went off to college, and I realized that all of the things that were from my weird upbringing were now affecting me in a different way in my like friendships and growing up and kind of like coming into my own, figuring out who I am without this like identity of, oh, you were the girl whose dad was in jail.
Were your parents honest with you from day one about what your dad had done, or did that come out later?
I don't think I really understood it. And like, even to this day, I'll go online. Like even a couple months ago, I went online just to like read something about it.
Do you wish you had known?
So I sort of knew. I knew it was a blue collar crime. I knew so the story goes, obviously he had been arrested prior. So obviously his record was not clean, but he had a partner. I think this is the story. The partner died from a heart attack in a strip club, like the week before their trial.
What a way to go out.
This is out of a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is very stereotypical.
Yeah. And I hope I'm telling the story correctly. You know, obviously growing up, I try not to ask too many questions, but as I've gotten older, like this is what's come out. But yeah, that's it. And he, then it was all on my dad pretty much.
Oh shit.
So they gave him a lot of time for the crime that he committed. It was, like I said, a blue collar crime.
How many years did he do?
7.
7.
Yeah. So he got out when I was a junior in high school.
Damn.
Wow.
And so at that point, like, because I mean, the thing I always think about now is like, you know, when we get to our age, right? We're all around the age of 30. It's like when you get to our age and you start hearing stories about like trauma, right? Like, oh, childhood trauma. I went through this. This person went through this. This person went through this. Like, at what point did you realize that, like, you had gone through trauma? Was it, again, when you said when you got to college and you start talking to other people about kind of their upbringing and things like that? Because everything feels normal. When you're 10 years old, you know, whatever, it's like you don't know any different, right? So it's really only as you get older and then you start telling other people about, like, oh, this is how I grew up, this is how I grew up, this is how I grew up. And then you're like, oh, my life was drastically different than yours, whatever. And then you realize certain things of, like, you were exposed to a very different situation than probably 90% of kids your age, right? And so you went through something, but at the time felt normal because you didn't know any different, right? So at what point did you kind of realize, like, holy shit, like my upbringing was drastically different than some?
Well, I always realized it because people always told me, and I always felt like an outsider. That being said, I honestly don't think that I realized that I had something that was coming up for me until a couple years ago.
How did that come out?
Well, like in college, for example, it came out in me being very bitchy, I guess, for lack of better words, very paranoid, very just not acting right exactly. I also think that was undiagnosed ADD that I wasn't managing well. But, you know, there was a falling out with my friends in college where it was like, oh gosh, like there really is something wrong with me. And that kind of smoothed itself over. I kind of got over that and figured out what I was like, what my accountability was in the process. And then, you know, after college, getting into, you know, romantic relationships were like the first time I fell in love. I think after that ended for the first time, it kind of made me realize like throughout the process, oh, this is how my childhood has affected me now. But like I said, until those kind of moments gave me the idea that maybe something that I learned from my past was not carrying well with me into the future, it wasn't until I realized like, oh, that's trauma. And I will say like the word trauma, I know that gets thrown around a lot these days. And it was always hard for me to identify that I had like a traumatic, quote unquote, childhood. And to this day, I still don't think I do, but I do think that it's impacted my life, and it is trauma, but I see it in a different way, and it just didn't come up for me in the way that I thought it ever would, or that people told me it would, I guess.
Well, trauma is also a spectrum, and like what could be traumatic to one might not the other, just based off of the life that they lived. But I feel like you were mentioning earlier before, neuroses, whatever, being neurotic. And now hearing that story, especially SWAT coming in the middle of the night, I can't help but think that a lot of that would be control of wanting to, you know, you and I have that in common about like clean pans, clean sponges. And for me, it's a way of protecting an outcome. And like, if I can have a hand in my safety and not responding poorly to something, I will. And I never thought of myself as a control freak until I realized a lot of that is triggered from like abandonment wounds, trauma, things that like, to me, I was like, that didn't affect me because I didn't let it define me in the moment. And then 10 years later, it's creeping out, but in a way that's like completely unsuspected, like cleanliness and harm and things like that.
So that's exactly what I'm trying to describe. Sometimes it's hard for me to articulate, but that's exactly what it is. It's like you asked, when did I realize? It wasn't until I had these other reactions that I'm like, oh, I'm understanding where that's stemming from, and trying to figure that out now, I think, is probably the hardest part in adulthood.
Well, you had a really early example, obviously, of everything changing overnight. And even like the dramatic effect of being in bed as a child, it's like that's supposed to be a safe place in your home with your mother. And then the next thing you know, everything is different. You're moving out. It's like I can't even imagine what that would do to a 9-year-old.
Yeah, and I think I'm really good at like repressing it and acting like, oh yeah, everything is fine. And I really didn't know anything different at the time. But it's very clear to me now in adulthood when I understand different personalities and like I come across new people, how it's so deeply affected me. And I think it's given me so much empathy for what other people have gone through. Like how you just said, you know, part of the control that you have, you're realizing is stemming from something that you were not able to, or something in the past. It's like, wow, no matter if people recognize it or not, everyone has something, and it's carrying with us into adulthood. It's how we all react to it and how we maneuver around it. That's, you know, going to make or break.
I think your empathy really shows even towards your father of making a mistake, but still recognizing that there was so much love being shown. Yeah. And I think that is so beautiful, because I feel like a lot of people with like, I hate saying cancel culture, because I feel like that's just like such a thing that's talked about right now, where it's like you do something wrong. We all make mistakes. And like we were talking earlier about like college years defining us, and, you know, not having certain things that happened a few years ago being held against us. But thematically speaking, and like who your dad is as a person, I think it's beautiful that you recognize that one can be a loving father and then also make a huge mistake.
Definitely. And it like makes me think about when I want to have children, and also the mistakes that our parents made. Like if someone's angry that their, you know, mom cheated on their dad or something, like obviously that's a huge thing. You should be very angry. But at the end of the day, to like recognize that everybody is just a human having, or we're just a clump of cells having like a human experience.
Totally.
Like we're just all trying to get by at the end of the day. So having like, I always try to say like my motto is I don't want to make anyone's life harder than it, you know, could be. And that's something new that I'm trying to embody. That's not the way it's always been. And I think trauma can affect people like in that way, where it's their immediate reaction to jump, and just taking a step back and like realizing that we're all just humans getting by. And, you know, some people might have ill intent, but at the end of the day, most people don't.
We're all doing it for the first time. And I think that like I've had conversations with my friends about parental like values being different, you know, trauma that has been inflicted from parents. And there's so much bitterness and resentment that, you know, needs to be resolved. But then at the same time, like you said, you take a step back and you assess the situation of like, this is my mom, my dad's first time in this situation as it is mine. We're both doing this for the first time together. So grace has to be given. And with that being said, obviously voice hurt, voice pain, but the empathy aspect is so massive when it comes to even our parents. I would not even, especially our parents.
Definitely. Until it turns toxic.
Yeah.
Right. Which
the allowance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cause I do want to counter and say a little bit of, I do think it's incredibly important for everyone to have a true transparent view of their own parents in terms of aspects of them you like, aspects of them you do not want to carry into your future marriage, your future adulthood and things like that. Because I do think there's certain times that people will forgive their parents for certain things that, to be fair, not all things are forgivable. You know, if my dad were to ever cheat on my mom, I would never forgive him. There would be no relationship there. Because to me, I look at cheating as the most disrespectful thing that you can do to somebody you care about. And I look at the love that you should have for your partner. And if you are able to do that to your partner, why would you treat anybody else good in your life? That's the way I look at it. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right.
I get it.
But I do not forgive cheating. I have zero like tolerant policy for cheating. And so that is something that I have always, and I've never had to worry about it with my dad and things like that. But I just think there's something where, like, there's also, if you forgive certain things, how does that then affect you when you take that into your own life, right? Because when you think about, to me, when I think about trauma, like, what is my definition of trauma? To me, it's life-altering experiences, right? So whatever that may be, we all go through various levels of trauma, right? We all go through things that alter our life in some capacity, right? And so when I think about that, I think it's so important to understand the trauma that you've gone through because, you know, you mentioned earlier when you were talking about your family said to you, you don't have to talk about your experiences. You don't have to talk about what you've gone through. You don't have to tell all these people when you go to college and things like that. And I would counter that and say, no, I think it's incredibly important to talk about what you've gone through because the events that you've gone through make you who you are to this day, right? And so if somebody doesn't know your experiences, if they don't know what you've gone through, then they can't say that they truly know you because they don't. They have an idea of who you are, but they don't know everything that brought you to who you are in present day form, right? And so I think as a result of that, it's important to look at our trauma and to look at our experiences and things like that and to have a really honest look at it and say, hey, there are certain things that may have happened in my childhood and whatever that, like, I want to make sure my kids never go through. And it's not to say to hold ill intent towards people in your life that altered you in some way or whatever, but also to have just a really solid understanding of what has happened to you so that you can say to yourself, how do I make sure this never happens to my children someday, right? And I think there's so many people that give grace to people in their life that they shouldn't always give grace to. And I think, and I mean that in the sense of, like, not necessarily your exact situation, but I think there are certain times where people have gone through events that are so traumatic that I'm like, by forgiving that, I do think you can actually develop toxic forgiveness.
Toxic tolerance.
Yeah,
for sure.
Where you forgive people for things that you should not forgive them for. And how many times do we all know somebody who's gone through a relationship where they're like, I am so done with this person. They did this to me. It's the last time I'm ever going to let them do this, blah, 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 blah. And then next thing you know, a week later, you see that person with that same person again. And we can laugh about it and whatever, but like the amount of times people waste years of their life by toxically forgiving people that have no reason for you to forgive them. And so again, I think it's really important to take a hard look at the trauma that you've gone through, learn from that so that you can try to minimize how much you go through moving forward. And so I think taking a look back, reflecting on your life and saying, hey, at this point in my life, I dealt with this trauma. At this point in my life, I dealt with this trauma. How do I make sure that I minimize the amount of trauma that I go through moving forward, and to also remove certain people that bring trauma into your life? And you know, it's hard to do, but again, I do think the forgiveness can be it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Like, there's a solid middle ground that you have to find, because otherwise, if we forgive everything around us, sometimes we almost give that person the ability to then do the same thing that they did to us previously, right?
It's enabling for sure.
Yeah. But
I feel like conditional forgiveness is something that's really interesting, because I feel like you and I are more the types of allowance. And I don't know what that is rooted in, but if I can understand why you did something, if I can see the full picture, even if it's not what I would have done, I can very often get on your side. Mm-hmm. And even though I am like number one anti-cheating, infidelity, everything like that, I also tend to lean towards, like, the older I get, the more I accept that I don't know the ins and outs of every relationship. And even though I perceive a dynamic as such, it doesn't mean that it is. And I don't know withdrawing. I don't know withholding. I don't know intimacy. I don't know, past hurts, resentment, everything that builds. And so I tend, and it comes to, like, obviously that's person case by case of not being able to forgive your parents. But I've also accepted that I haven't been 30 years into a relationship. I haven't been 40 years. I don't know what having a kid, multiple kids, going broke, making money, but I don't know what any of that does to a person's self-esteem, their ego, etc. And so I've kind of withhold that thing of, like, if they do this, I'll never do that. I'll see how it affects me in the moment versus anticipating my response to something that I haven't yet experienced or had to deal with yet. And I feel like anticipatory anxiety is something that is, I feel like especially now, I don't know if it's like a COVID thing or maybe we're just talking about it, but I feel like more than ever, we are always anticipating the next thing that could go wrong, because there was a year there where every single day we were dealing with like a historical, horrific event.
Yeah.
And it almost became comical of like, what now? Like, who's going to die? Who's going to get this? And we've become so desensitized to horror. And I feel like one of the best things that you can do is kind of just take a step back and say, I'll deal with it when it comes, and I'll react and figure it out if and when it happens.
Yeah.
You might have more tolerance towards your father or your mother or your friend than you even realize when you understand the big picture.
But I think I go back into like the psychology of things. I think it's incredibly interesting to me to understand why people make the decisions that they make, right? So if somebody cheats or if they do X, Y, and Z, I always want to know why. Like, yeah. What is your why, right? But the one aspect that I go back to when it comes to cheating is that when you cheat on somebody, you are cheating on the person that should be your number one person in your entire life. Everybody else is beneath that person. Maybe your children, one could argue your children come above. I don't know. I'm not a parent. I can't say. But in terms of like your partner, your wife, your husband, your whatever, should be your like damn near the top if they're not the top. Mm-hmm. So if you are able to cheat on that person, if you are able to hurt that person, if you are able to do X, Y, and Z to that person, again, how would you treat me if I'm beneath that person?
I hear you. What makes you think it's so much about that person?
Yes, exactly what I was going to say.
I think it's a, for example, I've had buddies that have been in relationships where they've talked about, nearing the end of the relationship. God, I just like, like maybe I saw a girl at a bar and like, ooh, I was interested in her. And I'm like, okay, so break up with your girlfriend. Like, just don't go down the path that you're about to go down, because if you go down that path, you are going to cheat on her. So if you aren't happy with your relationship, end it. But do not cheat around. Don't cheat. Don't do that. Don't do that to her. That's a person that, even if you don't currently care about her to the level that you used to, don't do that to her. Break up with her. Just break up. Again, I understand that's not easy. I don't think cheating makes it easier. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like we're forgetting like how much, because once again, number one anti-infidelity person over here. But I also feel like cheating is completely a sign of brokenness in the other person. And I feel like when someone cheats, there has to be recognition of, this has absolutely nothing to do with me. And that's something that I've done a lot of research on, is someone that I'm chronically cheated on.
But now you're talking about getting cheated on versus that person cheating. I'm not saying that you can't, if you get cheated on, I'm not saying it's about you.
No, of course not. No, yeah. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying that because of, when something bad happens to me, I have to understand it. I have to get their mindset. I have to understand full picture, just so I can, like, that's my version of closure. Don't need to fucking talk to the person that did it, but I need to understand why, the psychology behind it, so that I can feel like it's not a way of displacing blame. I fully understand that something could be my fault, but it's more a thing of like, okay, this is a sign of somebody's, broken childhood, horrible self-esteem. They feel small. They feel once you start understanding what makes people cheat, I pity you. Like, I feel bad for you, like, because I would hate to be you, because I don't think that people just go to a bar, see someone hot and cheat. I think there's an element of, what's like the negative version of spontaneous? It's a negative word for it, when you are impulsive. I feel like there's a level of impulsivity where you were saying, why didn't you just break up with your girlfriend? when people are deeply broken, their impulsive factor, it's one of the most dangerous elements I think a person can have, because there isn't a lot of forethought, and that can get you into a lot of danger. But I feel like people go into a situation and they don't give a fuck about themselves. They don't care about anything that they have. They know they're going to lose it anyway. So they sabotage it before it can hurt them.
Self-sabotage.
And then they cheat. And so there's a lot, for me, like, even though I don't want to have anything to do with you, like if you're going to be a person that cheats on me, I'm going to walk away with being like, I hope you get help. I hope that you figure out all of the issues that you have. Don't need to be a part of it. But I feel like my anger was very displaced because of my ego being affected. You know what I mean? In relationships where it's really easy to be like, fuck, I should have worn more lingerie. I should have been this. I should have been that. I should have been the dream girl. When in reality, it's like that person just needs therapy.
Yeah.
Well, right. But I also think it's part of like, if somebody is, I don't know, let's say 22 and under, whatever, and they cheated on somebody in college or high school or whatever, I'm willing to forgive that at some level, because I'm like, your frontal lobe hasn't even developed. Like,
good point.
I can understand that a little bit. Okay. It's not great, still not great, but I can understand a little bit. When someone's 30 plus, I'm like, you're an adult. You're an adult. Like, if you haven't done the work to work on yourself, to heal from some of the trauma that you've gone through and things like that, it is part of your responsibility to the world and to the people around you to heal yourself in certain ways, so that you don't take what you've gone through and have that negatively affect the people around you. Mm-hmm. That to me is part of your like journey, is that you have to heal from your own trauma. You have to go through proper things, whether that's therapy, whether that's talking about it, whatever it may be, to heal the stuff that you've gone through. You can't use your previous trauma as an excuse to hurt other people around you, right? And so again, I'm not saying that if somebody cheats on somebody that like I hate them forever and yada, yada, yada. I'm just saying I don't need you in my life, because I can't trust you at that point. Because again, to me, it is your responsibility to heal from your own trauma. And if you haven't done that, it's like it's hard to have those people around you, because it's hard to trust those people completely. And that's more of my thing, is like, again, I think accountability is such an important aspect of life. And so everybody has gone through some level of trauma. Trauma is on a scale, like you mentioned earlier. And so with that, it is your responsibility to heal your trauma so that you don't cause future trauma to somebody else. And because, again, I think if you look at some of the, craziest humans on this planet, they had some level of trauma in their childhood, right? But again, there's a lot of people who also had similar trauma who didn't go and do something crazy, right? So again, I think it is your responsibility to heal your trauma so that you do not cause trauma on other people. And that would be my take on that.
I would say a huge part of that is knowing that you have trauma.
I was going to say it's the knowing, the acknowledgement.
Yeah. I mean, even just coming to the realization, like being awakened to it, like it doesn't happen quickly for a lot of people. And a lot of people have to go through that to figure out, wow, there's something deeply wrong with me that I have to fix and figure out. And I think a lot of people are walking like zombies in this world and not really totally aware of what they're doing to themselves or other people. It's almost like self-sabotage is the last thing that they can do to make themselves feel something and for like their subconscious to make a change. And until that happens, it's like it's just like tearing up every path that you walk down and relationship that you have until you hopefully wake up, and some people never do.
Well, I feel like self-sabotage is an element of control, of basically being able to make a call so that someone else can't do it first. Mm-hmm. And what you literally just said about the zombie is the trauma response, like the what is it? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Fawn is the new one I heard.
Yeah. And my therapist was telling me this morning. She was like, I've noticed that your trauma response is friend, which she says is like, it's like fawn, aka friend, where it's almost like taking the whole phrase, like keep your enemies close.
Oh, girl.
To another level, because I've noticed that when I feel threatened, I feel unsafe, I make myself a friend, and none of it's fake. None of it is manipulative in the sense of like maliciousness, but it is like basically making yourself so small that you're not a target. And like, why would you want to hurt me if I'm being so kind to you? See, I'm not against you. I'm not a threat here. And so it's basically disguising yourself as one of them has been a trauma response that I have done forever, or freezing.
Friend is a new one. I have not heard friend.
It's like fawn. It's the same thing.
I like it better as friend.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it is. And I felt that many times before. That's really interesting. I love all these, new things that come out with psychology. It's so interesting to me. If I didn't go in the path of money, well, I guess I could have still found money in this, but psychology is
harder.
So interesting. I mean, I was never a scholar, never a good student, but I remember my psychology class very, very well. And it was always so interesting.
Yeah.
And it's so nice that our generation is awakened to most of it. But when I'm talking about my father or something like that, there was no hope. I mean, I'll just be honest, there was no hope for him. The way that he was brought up. And I think that's a big thing now with therapists you look kind of at your parents as, you either want to ruffle the feathers if you think that they can change, but a lot of the times you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And would you rather ruin the relationship, or would you rather not say anything or keep things copacetic to have them live out their years? And with my dad, I realized that's where we're at. With my mom, I could tell her anything. So it's just playing to the relationships. And I would say that's where the grace comes from. I mean, if you're, some random guy now and you've done the work and you realize your faults and whatever, and you're cheating on your girl, there's really no excuse for that. But at the same time, you have to realize that's still a deeply flawed person. You have to hope that they wake up eventually, but they don't. But I can't say that it's indicative of their entire character.
But I think part of it, though, is for somebody to learn. Because, okay, so you get into the discussion a lot of people will say, can somebody change, right? And
Definitely.
My whole thought on that, though, is in order to change, you have to lose something. And so if you're dating somebody and they cheat on you, and 6 months later they come back to you and they say, I've changed, I've really done the work, I've gone to therapy, yada, yada, yada. My belief, and it's my belief, and to be fair, I don't think I'm ever going to change my mind on this, is I don't think that person can change with you. And the reason why I say that is because the moment you get back together with that person, subconsciously in their mind, it says to them, no matter what I do, they will still come back to me. I said to them, I've made the changes, I've done the things, whatever, but they didn't lose anything. If you lose something, I think that person can realize the mistakes they've made, but you have to have true punishment. And because I think about, when you're a child and you get grounded from something, and after a few days, your parents go, hey, actually, you know what? We're just going to give that back to you, right? Maybe it's your iPad, maybe it's a phone, whatever, because they're like, I don't want to deal with them right now. I'm just going to give it back to them. But then that child doesn't learn because there was a punishment that wasn't fulfilled. You know what I mean? And so I look at it and I go, if somebody cheats on somebody, they need to lose something in order to realize, hey, if by me doing that event, that occurrence, that action, whatever, I'm going to lose that person in my life. So therefore, the next person that's in my life that I care about, I can't do that to them because if I do, I will lose them. Right. And so I think that's the important aspect of it is for somebody to truly learn, they have to lose something. And so I think a lot of times people want to forgive because anybody that's wronged you in life, you still have some semblance of great memories with them because there was something about them that you either enjoyed when you were dating them or somebody you were friends with or a family member or whatever. Right. And so, again, to me, what it comes down to is for them to learn, you have to lose something, right? And so when you talk about your dad, right, what he lost was his freedom, right? I mean, he was in jail for 7 years, right? And so he lost his freedom. And so when you come out of that, your hope is that you learn from that and you go, I never want to go back to that, right? And so I think, again, when it comes to, again, I think cheating is probably the easiest thing to kind of, I guess, for people to relate to or things like that, or losing a friend that hurt you or disrespected you in some capacity or whatever. Again, the way I think about it is the only chance that person learns is if they lose you. And although that's also hard on you, you have to do that for that person and then also for yourself so that you subconsciously tell yourself, I'm never going to let somebody treat me like that again. And I think that is such an important aspect of life in general is having hard boundaries of once you've crossed this line, there is no coming back. And I hope you change and I hope you have a great life and I wish you well. I don't have ill will towards you, but I just can't have you in my life because 1, I deserve better than that. And 2, I want you to change. But the only way you're going to change is if you lose me.
I fully agree. I think it's harder, and what you were saying, when you can see the full picture. When you it's so easy to do that with a friend. You do me wrong, see ya. It's easy for me to forgive on a superficial level, but that's more so for myself. And I think that's what people honestly mainly forgive for. It's to heal themselves. It doesn't really mean that they actually forgive the other person, but it's not something you want to take with you on the day to day. That being said, when you know someone fully and you see the full picture and the full spectrum of their life, it's like, oh, I understand that someone's doing these things for this reason. It's just a little bit harder that way. But I completely agree. And I think, sounds like you're talking from experience. So.
No, I've actually never been cheated on.
Oh,
but
really?
but I'm a big believer of, with my job, I've met so many different women and things like that, and it always bums me out when you see somebody that's gone through something terrible and they're talking to you about it, and 2 months later you see them back in the same situation, and you just know what's inevitable, like what's going to happen again, and it always does.
Always happens.
It always does. And again, it's because to me, somebody who has the ability to hurt you, if you forgive them truly, and by forgiving, here's the thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness to me, you can forgive somebody and no longer have room for them in your life, right? Mm-hmm. So I forgive anybody who's wronged me in my life. I don't have malice in my heart. I don't have anger in my heart. I don't wish ill will on any of them. I hope they have a great life. I just don't have room for you in my life anymore because I can't trust that you won't do that again, right? And I want you to, if you miss having me in your life, that's great. I want you to miss having me in your life. Your actions led to me removing you from my life, right? So I hope you learn from that, and I hope you never do that again to anybody else. But again, I go back to that with friendship. I go back to that with working relationships, romantic relationships, anything like that. If you wrong somebody, I hope they remove you from their life so that you can learn that that action is not acceptable. And to me, that's the only way somebody learns. You have to lose something. And I mean, part of it is like we live in a culture where like 50 to 60% of couples get divorced anyway. I'm trying to give myself the highest likelihood of success, right? So if somebody's cheated on you, the odds of that eventually becoming this beautiful marriage that lives on happy ever after, it's like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like maybe 2%. But what people hold on to all the time is they'll go, whoa, I have an exception. My uncle once did this to my aunt, and like now they have this beautiful marriage.
Exception versus the rule.
Right. And I'm like, okay, but like, if I told you that you have a 1% chance of survival on something, wouldn't you rather take the 99% chance? Like, it's like if I give you two options, this one you got a 1% chance of survival, this one you got 99% chance. You're going to take the 99% chance. I mean, you know what I mean?
You are so healthy. I love
I know.
it.
That's what everyone says. They come
healthy.
on here and they're like, you're so healthy.
I love it. I'm gonna embody that.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to talk and say, but again, when you've had this,
Good luck.
Well, because
Good luck.
You were about to say something?
I'll never forget. I met this guy, someone I had a very long relationship with. He told me very early on in the relationship, look, I cheated on my girlfriend, not the one right before you, but before that. And he was like, it was so bad. It was so public. It was so humiliating that I will never do it again. I learned my lesson. Like it scarred me. Like it led me to like the end of my road. Like it was very dark, whatever. And I remember hearing that story, going home sick to my stomach. And I told a few people of like, I don't know what to do because I am at this point have been cheated on chronically. Like I can't enter into another situation with what you just said of that likelihood of, is he going to repeat it? And every single person that I talked to said, yeah, but he learned his lesson. And it's what that he lost the thing. He, it was public, it was big, it was humiliating, it was defining. He ended up cheating on me, and then he tried to cheat on the girl he's with now with me. So you never lose.
No, I will say that's because he made it about himself still. He said, I
was embarrassed.
I was embarrassed. It wasn't that I hated myself so deeply because I hurt the person that I loved.
It was nothing to do with her.
Oh my God, I was outed. That was the worst thing ever for me and my ego.
Yeah, it was public. Everyone thought I was. He felt victimized, and it was like every time he would get drunk, it was actually a very embarrassing thing. Every time he would get drunk, he would talk about it to people about how like this happened and like I have so much shame about it. Like everyone knew and everyone thought I was bad, and it was like everything is always about your image. It has nothing to do with the amount of pain that you cause on somebody else. Even me. It was like he did it to me, kicked me out of my home, but I took the spatula. So I'm a pretty horrible person. It's like they're not able to weigh the damage that they've caused. All they're thinking about is their reputation and their ego.
That's fully that. I mean, it's interesting that it seems so obvious when you say it out loud that that's what's going on. But and that's what I'm saying, when you're in the situation, it's a totally different story. Like it's so easy to talk about and say, but at the end of the day, it feels like there's so many other factors in place where you can make all these excuses. And honestly, I can make an excuse for anything in my life. I'm like, well, this, that, and then the other thing, it's fine. But it's really, and again, just to circle back, like trying to have empathy for everybody. and not letting it get toxic has been one of my goals. But that being said, everyone is living such a crazy, complicated life that you do not see behind the scenes. It's like, okay, if you get this sense that someone's going to cheat on you or that they're a bad vibe, like, no ill will, move on, protect your peace. But at the end of the day, it's very possible that guy didn't cheat on you or wouldn't have, but
No, he ended up.
No, he didn't.
no, I know. It's very possible that he that he maybe wouldn't have cheated.
Yeah,
maybe
you
he
never
did.
know.
You never know until you
Mark's like,
experience
no,
it
he
yourself.
did.
Yeah, he did.
But
Screw that guy. Goodbye and good riddance.
Yes, see you later.
I think it's so important because part of it is, with a lot of men don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about their experiences. They don't. The amount of times that I've heard men say that they experienced trauma in their childhood, I can maybe count on one hand. Like it's crazy. Men just don't talk. It's just not a conversation that happens on a regular basis, and it has to change because everybody's experienced trauma. Men, women, everybody's experienced trauma. But for whatever reason, there's this like apprehension to being vulnerable as a guy, and so by you saying I've experienced some level of trauma, it's almost like they feel like that's like making them lesser of a man as a result, right? And to me, I'm like, again, your trauma is your experiences. So by talking about your experiences, somebody else has a better understanding of who you are. By you verbalizing what you've been through, you also have a better understanding of who you are. I think a lot of people don't understand the shit they've been through until they start talking about it and somebody else goes, damn, that's different. I thought my childhood was incredibly normal until I got to college and I was like, wait, you're telling me everybody didn't grow up in a loving household with a beautiful family, with beautiful parents that have an incredible marriage? Like, wait, what? And I realized my childhood was different.
The unicorn.
Yeah, like
A rarity.
But it was the thing of like that doesn't mean that I didn't experience trauma. It was just trauma with other things, other aspects of my life, right? And so to me, it was like the first time I ever opened up about going through. I had terrible acne from when I was 16 to 23. I was on Accutane 3 times. At one point, I had been on a antibiotic for I think it was 7 years straight, where I'd been taking an antibiotic 3 times a day.
That
right?
makes you depressed.
Well, and imagine what my gut looked like.
Say,
You know what I mean?
gut to brain access, everything.
I didn't date because I didn't have confidence in talking to women because I didn't think they'd want to talk to me. I still to this day have a hard time looking people in the eyes because I used to not want people to look me in the eyes because I thought they would see my acne and I thought that was all they would see. And so the first time I ever opened up to anybody about how much my skin bothered me, how self-conscious I was about it and everything like that, I cried like a baby. And I was like 22. And it was because I had never verbalized it before. The only person I'd ever talked to about it previously was my mom. And it was because I knew she wouldn't judge me. I knew she understood part of it. She also knew how much she was paying to the dermatologist. So, it was like she understood the situation really well. But the first time I talked about it to somebody that, didn't know all the details, I cried like a baby. And to this now at 31, I'm like, hey, I got to go to Sephora. I got to go pick up, my
Literally.
my whatever
Paula's
alpha beta
Choice
field.
BHAs.
Yeah, 100%.
We
Right over
stop
there.
at Sephora.
You were giving glazed donuts, so I knew it was something.
100%.
Your skin's amazing now.
Your skin is fabulous.
Took a long time to get to that, and also, but it was like if I wasn't open about my what I had gone through and everything like that, I wouldn't have had so many great conversations with people who've given me great tips, things that I've learned about my gut health, things I've learned about better ways to take care of myself, different things that I have silk pillowcases for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat dairy often. Every once in a while you gotta cheat a little bit, but I don't eat dairy often because of that. There's so many different aspects of my life that I try to do differently now to make sure I never go through again what I went through previously. But if I never talked about it, I'd probably still be in the position of 31 and still have terrible acne because I just never talked about it.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense why you have so much patience and empathy with all the girls that you shoot. Because I feel like I have this thing, and if you're a photographer that shot with me, then I'm always like mid-thigh up because I have fat knees and I have cankles. And I do not want to see a photo. It's bad enough that I have to live with it. I don't want to see a photo evidence of it. And I remember telling you, shoot me mid-thigh up. And you did an incredible job at balancing, look, you have body dysmorphia, while also, giving me a lot of grace and hearing me and understanding it. And it makes sense that you had something where, I meet you and I'm like, you guys, great hair, you guys, great skin. What else do you guys worry about? You know what I mean?
Right.
You got the two. And so I wouldn't think that you had anything to be insecure about, but you do approach women with a lot of compassion about the little things that we rip apart. I do like that about you, shooting with you and being your friend.
I think that's understanding the trauma of it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, I get it. Like, you know, there's times like I used to hate going to sleepovers growing up because I was like if I'm out of my norm, you know, then like my skin's gonna flare up. Like I'm, you know, if I take my time doing like a skincare routine, or my buddy's gonna judge me, things like that. I still get jealous. There's times like I went to the Kentucky Derby with a bunch of buddies. We got back from the bar, they just went to bed. I was like,
Can you even imagine?
My 9 steps.
I was like, they didn't even brush their teeth. It was kind of nasty, but I was like, not kind of nasty. It was nasty, but
Cleanse, toner.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm washing my face with my cleanser. Then I have a skin peel that I do, or
Your 2-step.
Yeah, I do my 2-step peel, and then I have a serum. I have 2 serums I use actually, and then I have a moisturizer that I put on afterwards, and that's how you get this glowing skin. But like, you know, it's like,
We'll link the products below.
yeah, it's like, shout out Dennis Gross. Please give me the shit
I know,
free. It's so
seriously,
expensive.
it's so expensive.
I'm
Yeah.
going broke out here.
Please
I've been
sponsor us.
I've been eyeing that mask.
You can
the
try one
2-step
out.
is a thing for a reason.
You can try one out, not 2. Those are too expensive.
Yeah, Venmo 'em.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to, I think you have to have such an honest understanding of yourself and what you've gone through to learn why you make the decisions that you make and things like that. And that's why when I get to know people, when people say like, don't trauma dump, I'm like, dude, trauma dump all over. Like,
love a dump.
like dump all over me. Like,
Love a big dump.
I don't know how else to word that, but it's
Yeah.
like, to be fair, when you trauma dump, you were telling me who you are. And so why would I be apprehensive to figuring out who you are? And so I want you to tell me. And I know those conversations aren't always the easiest. I know they're not always the most fun, but like, to be afterwards, I have such a better understanding of who you are. And if you don't tell me these things, then I can't say I know you like that. And so if you trauma dump, if you go and you tell somebody about your childhood or something that you experienced, whatever, and that person afterwards is like, okay, cool, I'm out. Well, isn't that the greatest like screener of all time? Like, cool. Now you obviously don't need that person in your life, because at some point they were going to find out. They know about it now. You realize they're not going to stick around. So, okay, cool. You lost that person. But I'd rather lose that person because they know who I am, and for whatever reason, that's not whatever. They don't want me in. That's fine. Good riddance. But I want somebody to know who I am rather than have an idea in their head of who I am. I'll tell you exactly what I've been through, exactly who I am. And if you like that, great. And if you don't, fuck off.
That's really nice. That was a very healing moment, because I had this one incident. I feel like all girls have that, like, or not girls, guys too. We have that 3 a.m. thought of like, why did I say that? Like the social anxiety spiral.
It's gonna happen to me tonight.
No, it's not. It's not, because you're in a safe place. Mine
True.
wasn't. Mine wasn't. So what happened was, I went to a party. I met this girl. I had just gotten my OCD panic disorder diagnosis. So it was like new to me. I was learning about it. I was reading about it. Everything was starting to make sense. It was like the first time that I felt like, holy shit, like I feel seen. I feel heard. This is awesome. And I go to this dinner afterwards, and there's this girl who I'm like, we just instantly clicked. I'm like, this is my girl. Like we are going to be best friends one day. Like just instantly knew. And then I would say like 3 hours into the conversation, we're getting deep. We're talking about great stuff. I start talking to her about mental health and OCD. And she was like, well, like describe it, like walk me through an example of what OCD is. And I gave her an example, and I can see her like getting uncomfortable. And like, as I'm sharing more and more, I can sense her discomfort. And obviously that could be that, you know, either she's relating too much and it's like, it's too much too soon, it's scaring her, or she thinks I'm weird. Mm-hmm. And I translated it as, she thinks I'm fucking weird. And she like dismissed herself from the conversation and went upstairs and went to bed. Didn't say goodbye to me. Haven't talked to her since.
Oh man.
And I can't even tell you that night when I woke up, and the next morning to my boyfriend, he was like, it was so nice seeing you get along with so-and-so so well. And I'm like, yeah, no, she thinks I'm a freak and we're never talking again. And he's like, well, what did you say? And I was like, I kind of got into the mental health thing. And he's like, babe, like so soon? And then I was like, wait a second. Like, I got into mental health with you in 5 minutes. You did the same with me. We didn't think each other were weird. It's just a good way of weeding out. Or did you?
Oh, Jess, no, she texted
fully.
me and was like, this bitch Anna, crazy.
After we wrap this up, I'm running out.
I feel unsafe.
No, I mean, I think, you know, like you said, it's a good way to weed people out. I mean, I have a lot to talk about, and I feel like I've lived life. And at this point in my life, I'm not interested in small talk.
Thank you.
If I'm going to be around someone, if I'm going to be in a conversation with them, if they're going to be someone that I, you know, even am acquaintances with, honestly, at this point, like, we're going to talk about deep stuff. We're not going to mince words. If you aren't that kind of person, I just feel like there's too many people like that out there that I can find my people and not have to deal with people that don't you know, I mean, obviously I have friends that are less emotional and it's like funny and they like know that, but do they still listen to me and support me? Of course. And like, if someone's not going to be there for that, then I just have no interest in being around them. And it's, yeah, especially as an adult, a great way to weed people out. Definitely harder as a kid for sure. Yeah. Which is why, you know, friendships can get weird into adulthood. But I would say, you know, we're all, again, living life and we all have our own stuff to deal with, whether it's acne, whether it's, you know, you peed the bed as a kid, whatever it is. Everyone has that level of, you know, something they were anxious about. And it's all about perception, right? So like even like my quote unquote trauma, like that's not necessarily what I think of as my big T trauma in my life. Like I also had very severe acne. That was awful.
Gang, gang.
And did gang. Yeah, that, I mean, I still deal with that to this day. And that will take a toll on your confidence like no other. And there's just days where you don't want to go out of the house. You can't look people in the eyes. That's so real. And so like even something like that, like someone that has never had acne would never understand that. But it's all about the way that things are perceived and the way people feel things, which, you know, is telling of why they
there was a fly that went by.
Yeah.
That was why
I was like,
I did
that
that.
was very, I like that.
Yeah, no.
We're gonna get sassy with
No,
it.
that was
Okay,
there was
next.
a little fruit fly that went by.
Okay, shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. I can go back to making my songs.
No, you're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
let the girls sing.
No, but so here's my question for you. When you meet somebody, whether it's on a date, whether it's like new friend circle, whatever, how do you have kind of like a policy in mind of like how quickly do you get into like your trauma?
Oh, I wish. I mean, I like listen to a couple podcasts and read books, obviously, and it's like sort of giving you a rule, you know, rules. I like to think that I'm mysterious. There's zero mystery. No, I'll lay it all out there, especially if I feel comfortable with someone. And then, like you said, if that's someone that's not going to talk to me the next day, or someone that's not going to feel like, oh, like if I get weird vibes from them, I'll go home that night, have that 3 a.m. thought, and then out of my life.
It's the
Like,
worst feeling.
But thankfully, that hasn't happened to me as of recent. I also haven't been letting as many people into my life as of recent. But
that's what scares me is like I get worried because like one of my like qualities I like about myself is my openness and my willingness to relate and find commonality. And so I don't want that to be changed in me, but I also like we all have that inner kid wound, you know, something that we were made fun of, you know, whether it be your height, your acne, you know, I don't know, childhood upbringing, whatever. I have this little inner narrative that I'm weird and everybody thinks I'm weird. And like, not like the kind of weird, like, oh, she's goofy and wacky. Like there's something wrong with her. Like, why can't she be like us? And I think it was just really hard. It was really hard for me growing up to be a kid. I always felt like, I don't know if it's because I had older parents and I was an only child, but I always felt like I was a middle-aged woman trapped in a kid's body. And like I carried a briefcase. I had my little brace. I was hanging out with the teachers at lunch. I just didn't relate to children.
wait, the briefcase.
Yeah, you carried a briefcase?
Way better organization.
That is. Can I tell you?
Way better. I mean, that's facts.
No,
but it's
way
just-
better organization, and you don't get crumpled. And also, it's better for your back. I had horrific scoliosis. I'd wear a brace. Can't be rocking a backpack.
I'm just picturing you with the briefcase. I love it.
I know, it was a little black one.
Inspector Gadget vibes.
Yeah, label maker.
You're genuinely not going to believe me. I might have to get my mom on this because I carried a briefcase.
I believe you. You have we both have briefcase
Briefcase vibes.
100%.
Love it. Yeah, I mean,
I didn't carry a briefcase. I'm sorry, guys.
You don't have brief. You have like didn't bring a backpack to school vibes, but you did bring like a pencil and like you borrowed a piece of paper from your friend.
Yeah,
and
low
still
key,
got
I did.
straight A's.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
as someone who hasn't known you for very long, I would think that you were like Mr. Backpack. Or maybe a
You have
rolling
wing
bag.
energy.
Maybe a rolling
Not
bag.
a rolling bag.
well,
don't put that juju out
so
on there.
mean.
That's crazy.
That's, like, so
That's crazy. Yeah.
I also had a
This
rolling bag at
podcast's
one
over.
point.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Love them.
Yeah, but we seem like that once again. We seem like we would have that.
Okay.
He doesn't.
It's honestly, and I think that's the saddest thing. It's like, especially like feeling like you're off or whatever. People I think are weirder than they act because, or they're not.
I was going to say,
And
people
would
are
you
so
rather
normal and boring?
boring? What's going on in their head? Like, I don't ever want to be like that. Like simple-minded, like not, I mean, as bad as my anxiety gets, I would way rather choose this life than choose a life of complete oblivion, I guess.
Superficiality, yeah.
Superficial, yeah. Like just walking like zombie.
Yeah.
So like when you have those thoughts, it's helpful to get back to that. But I mean, that's the inner kid wound that you still carry. And I think also it's, like you said, being an only child probably exacerbates that.
Oh yeah, you're talking to yourself. You have like a lot of time to think about your own thoughts. But I can't help but think that like you don't miss something that you don't have. So like if we didn't have that depth or that yearning for depth or that that capability, we wouldn't know if we maybe it would be nice.
Some days I think that like ignorance is bliss. Like the people that kind of can just float through life and like they almost have no self-awareness. It's like, wow.
You'd be so much happier if you didn't have critical thinking skills.
That's
Yeah, but would you?
Yes, you would.
100%.
Yeah, but 100%. You'd be so much happier.
But I think about it and I'm like, I think the definition of happiness is really broad. And I think so many people have a different definition, obviously, of what is true happiness, right? But I think there's a lot of people that go through life that think they're happy, that I don't think really know themselves completely and have not had enough conversations with themselves to actually ask themselves what truly makes me happy. I think about it a lot because even like, for example, I was in Tampa and we were at this like nightclub, whatever, and we got bottle service, right? And as the lady's walking up with the bottle of tequila, I thought to myself, and I'm like, how dumb is this whole concept? She's walking up with this $45 bottle of Casamigos or whatever Casamigos goes for. I don't know, 60? I don't know.
way more than that.
Whatever it goes for. But I'm like, this bottle probably cost us $500, $1,000, whatever it costs us. I don't know. And she's walking up with a sparkler that's probably $1.50 at your local, whatever dollar store. And then there's a sign that you put whatever on, right? And I thought about
birthday, Mark. It's so embarrassing.
And I thought about it, and I was like, what a dumb concept. Like, why did we pay this? Because even here's the other thing. Then you have this bottle of tequila, and you have 12 people in the section or whatever. So everybody gets damn near like maybe a shot, and then you got to order another bottle. And I'm like, what a weird concept of why do we think this is so fun and so cool and whatever? Like, I would so much rather be. And here's the thing. You don't even get good drinks. They come up with cranberry, pineapple, orange juice, and I'm like,
flat soda,
tonics.
I'm back to high
tonic.
school. I'm mixing tequila with just random shit, and I'm like, this isn't even a good drink. I could go to the nearest bar over. That's a sit down place. I can hear myself think, which is always nice. I can have a
I don't want to hear it.
Well,
Please make it stop.
I could have an $18 cocktail that's going to taste delicious, right?
Yeah.
That's going to have some artisan elements to it and everything. It's going to be great.
Garnished.
And then I'm gonna tip my 20%, whatever my tax, whatever, and I'm out there with $25
Yeah.
compared to.
But that's growing up. That's maturity.
Growing up, I would say.
And so, but the whole reason why I tell the story is because I think, again, when people think about happiness, they often think about what they believe makes them happy versus what actually makes them happy. Things that you go through, because when you're 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, whatever, a lot of times it's groupthink. What your friends say, oh, we should go do this. You're like, yes, I also want to do this. And it's like, how often you actually stop yourself and ask yourself, do you actually want to do that? Or are you just doing it because your buddy wants to and you just want to go along with it? And you don't want to kind of like, eventually just be like, actually, I don't want to do that, right? And I think real adulthood, real like coming into your own is actually stopping yourself and saying, hey, do I actually want to do this? Or am I just doing this because the rest of the group wants to? And if I don't want to do it and I choose not to, and maybe I end up not being as tight with these people long term as a result, am I really losing anything? Not really. Like if these people, that's the thing, you lose people in life. I always think about, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this too. When I was growing up, my parents always had this people that would come over to the family, over to the house, have dinner, whatever. And I remember thinking to myself at certain points, like, oh man, I haven't seen so and so in forever, right? And then it was like a new couple would be over all the time, right? And then maybe after like a little bit, like they would stop coming over, and I was like, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Swingers?
What was going on there?
No.
Yeah.
That was exactly what I thought.
I remember saying to my mom at some point, I was like, hey, I just want like, can we get to the point where you just tell me everything, right? And she's like, yeah, like, fuck it, sure. And she was like, okay, that couple, they stopped coming over because the husband was cheating on the wife. And I was like, oh shit, okay, that makes a lot more sense, Oh, that couple, like, to be fair, we really don't like how he is when he's drunk. He actually ended up doing this, not here, but somewhere else. We heard, like, we just don't want to be around that. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's like, I realized that not everybody's meant to be in your life forever, right? Certain times it was like, my mom was like, oh, I get along really well with the wife, but dad doesn't really get along as well with the husband, so we just don't really want to hang out with them as often. Okay, cool. I get that too. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like, there's certain times, like certain people and whatever, just not meant to be in your life forever. Sometimes they're meant to be in your life for a chapter, right? And so I think that's important to actually ask yourself, am I doing this because I really want to, or just because it's been the norm? And just because something's been the norm does not mean it needs to maintain being a norm in your life. And I think it's just, again, it's so important to stop every once in a while and just reflect and ask yourself, do I really like the things around me? Do I like the activities that I'm doing on a daily basis? Do I like my job? Do I like my relationships? Do I like my friendships? Do I like all these different things? And if at some point you go, actually, no, I don't, then change something. Don't just keep doing it just because, again, that was something that was a norm in your life. Just because something was a norm doesn't mean it needs to maintain being a norm moving forward.
Amen, sister.
Amen, sister. Yeah, I think that's a huge part of like our culture now, right? Like, I'm thinking about bottle service and like the music scene, right? When did everybody start liking the same like electronic music? Like
everyone likes Taylor Swift too. Like everyone likes the same stuff.
It's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Like
everyone has this everyone has the same favorite singer.
Yep.
It's really bizarre.
It's very bizarre. And like obviously there's the people who, genuinely like it, and then there's the people that are kind of just going along with it. And I guess it's like, to what degree? Like, okay, did I get bottle service for my birthday on, 2 weeks ago? Yes. Did I get it because I just wanted to hang out with my friends in a closed area? Yes. And we actually got Casamigos. It was way too expensive and no one ended up drinking it because that's typically what it is, but it's the minimum, which is a whole nother ridiculous thing. It was my first time and last time getting bottle service. That was a great time for that month. And like, I don't need to do that again anytime soon. Like,
yeah.
It's those kinds of experiences, like, whatever bottle service you're at, it's like the people that are going constantly, like the people that you see there every night. Like, of course, it's like, it's fun to go on a boat. Is it fun to go on a boat every single day? No. Yeah. Like, it's everything in moderation. And when you start getting to the point where it's like, why am I continuing to do this? That's almost filling a void. And I think a lot of those people are filling voids that they don't know need to be filled with something different, or maybe they've never really like had a sense of identity themselves. And so now this is their identity and they've kind of just like fallen into the crowd. And I think that's where a lot of toxic behavior comes from too. So when we're talking about these zombies, like you'll find them in the club.
That's so true.
That's facts.
Zombies everywhere.
That's facts. This has been...
We covered so many topics.
We really did.
Big fan.
We jumped on a lot of different things. Yeah, I think it's I love how this episode turned out.
Me too.
This is
because I blacked out for the majority of it.
Yeah.
Just panicked.
Well, I did. Yeah, I totally did.
How excited are you to watch this back afterwards?
Well, hopefully I looked cute.
You looked cute and
Great.
you sounded cute.
Could you tell that my body was literally trembling?
No.
It was like
you have a very chill demeanor.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're very like cool girl.
Oh,
You remind me of
Hang loose action.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
Did you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I didn't.
You remind me of Margaret Qualley.
I know that actress.
You remind me of her combined with. Did you watch the reboot of 90210? Jessica Lowndes.
Silver?
The pretty singer. No, you're the singer. The one with the not Silver. Jessica Lowndes. I'll pull it up. Anyways,
pull
you're a
it up.
mashup. I like to find people's
Thanks.
doppelgangers.
Doppelgangers. I love a doppelganger. In high school, I had a doppelganger. It was posted in like the paper.
Oh, what?
Like in my school newspaper, my high school newspaper.
Oh.
Megan Fox.
Ooh, okay, I can see that.
Wait,
with,
so then
look,
when you watch,
look at this.
Oh, yes. Wait, that's who I thought you were talking
Jessica
about.
Lowndes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay,
Oh.
wait, so then when you
Does she have a good personality?
She seems super nice in real life, and
Okay.
that's what matters.
Perfect.
I don't know her, but she seems nice.
okay, wait, so when you watched Love Is Blind, did you get pissed off when that chick was like, "I look like Megan Fox"?
No.
No, I felt fucking awful for her, if I'm being honest, because she does look like Megan Fox to me. She fully looks like Megan Fox to me. She has features that resemble Megan Fox. Does she look like Megan Fox? No. But
I see what you're saying.
Yes.
It's also she said people say I look like. Did I think she was doing it strategically so that she would get picked over the other one? Yes, but that's a conversation for another time. She has low self-esteem.
Yeah, that's different.
But I understood. People have said I look like people that I don't think I look like.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said I look like Sabrina Carpenter the other day.
I have no idea what Sabrina Carpenter looks like.
The
like-
Mia Espresso.
No, I know the song. I know who she is.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I think she's cute. And
Yeah,
like,
but,
I guess
but I'm not saying an insult, but she's a nugget and we have very different features.
Right.
But it's like,
but,
I could say that.
But you sort of do. And it's not that you don't, but it's not that you do either.
yeah.
Like,
But I could be delivering it. And I don't wanna
But if
get
I was going
bullied.
to tell somebody
Especially
what I
street
look like, I would definitely, if somebody's not able to see me and they ask me who
Yeah.
I look like, I'm just going to say Harry Potter.
I'm gonna
'Cause I feel like
underplay
that,
it for
yeah, I
sure.
feel like that leaves it like, okay, he's probably has dark hair and glasses. Okay, cool.
You know, right now I feel like you're giving like a sexy, like Steve
Ooh.
from Blue's Clues.
You think he's sexy?
Well,
A sexy
wait,
Steve from
wait, do we not hear the second part of
Do you
that?
think I look sexy?
Wait, no.
I
I
heard
moved
was
right
sexy.
past that comment. I moved right back to the Steve from Blue's Clues.
Have you seen him
Wait,
lately? He's
Steve.
he's a good looking guy.
Didn't he get kind of cute?
Yeah.
I feel like he got
Steve,
I felt like he got
Blue's
arrested for
Clues.
something. He canceled at some
No,
point.
that's-
Oh wait, that was the original.
Wait, didn't he get?
No, I'm just seeing it.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, he looks a little scary now. Okay. Okay,
It's
no.
really just the no. That's,
That's
Daisy.
that's the same
All right.
vibe.
Whoopsie
That's
doopsie.
that's the same vibe as the Megan Fox comment. Like
Wait.
obviously you look nothing like him, but you are wearing.
I want a comparison.
all right, Jess. This has been fun, and we'll
I was
see you
like,
never.
Can I make this about me now?
Who do you look like?
Yeah, but
me?
it has to be as weird as the Blue's Clues thing. I don't want it to be like a compliment.
Okay.
No pressure.
I'm so bad. Like immediate
know-
recall, I can't do.
You know who I've gotten as an insult / but I love her so much. Stifler's mom.
From is that American Pie?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't picture her.
Yeah, I've gotten Stifler's mom.
Yeah, I don't know. You. I can't.
It's okay.
I can't do
We'll
it.
talk about it later.
I will think about it. Oh, I will find someone ugly to call you. Don't worry.
We'll edit it into the podcast later. We'll figure it out at dinner.
To be
I'll
fair,
find everyone's horrible doppelganger.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah. When you talk, I will never mention that one again. The Harry Potter I have no issue with, and the other one that I get, the dude.
Oh, you look like Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. I get that a lot.
You do look like Tom
I
Holland.
get that, and I'll take that all day.
Okay.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
Steve
my
from
ugly-
Blue's Clues. I'm not going with that.
Sexy Steve.
Yes, you're forgetting the first part.
Yeah.
And it's really right
the
now.
second part was tough.
It's just the rim,
Especially the drip. The
and
drip on
t-shirt.
Steve. He always wearing that striped shirt.
It's a
terrible.
wardrobe. He's not
I know,
choosing it.
but it's terrible.
You know, I loved Blue's Clues. So who's got mail?
I would say you look like, I don't know. To be fair, I'm terrible at this.
Who's my ugly doppelganger?
I think you have one. I'm sorry.
I will say, so my best friend used to live in LA and she used to nanny for like a celeb. And she was taking a daughter to ballet class or something like that. And she saw who she thought was me in LA. And it was Jenna Dewan Tatum.
Yes. Nice.
Who's that?
Okay, so you just look like a bunch of hot people. Good for you.
Channing Thanks.
Channing Tatum's ex.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that
From
doesn't.
Step Up.
But that I don't know who that is.
Well, I'll show you her later.
Okay.
Does this ring any bells?
Well, I know the movie Step Up. It's a great movie. Made me.
Yeah.
You were doing the little. Oh, that's tough. All right, so this is the point of the episode where we end it. This is.
I didn't even realize you were still in
been
it.
fun.
The moment we start doing chest pumps, we know it's time to wrap up the episode.
Well, then we
always
should have
time.
stopped at the animal noises and the weird, inappropriate,
Mark tried to
sexual,
limit
made-up
us.
songs.
There's so many things. We all need therapy. That's what we've realized after this podcast episode.
What Mark likes to say, he wants to let his freak flag fly.
I can't say that expression.
Say it.
Let
Freak
your-
flag fly.
Let your freak flag fly. Let your freak flag fly. It's
Yeah.
a tongue twister.
It is.
Anywho, it's time to go to dinner. So let's polish these drinks. Let's go to dinner and appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate you coming
Cheers.
on.
Thank you,
And
guys.
I have no doubt she's gonna be back on.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
No, she's a bestie now.
Yeah, but if you
Hopefully I
ever
don't
make
tremble.
that Steve comment again, you
You're
know.
on thin ice.
I was just saying it to shake him up.
Yeah, fair.
It
Fair.
did. His ass is sweating.
I'm
All right.
I'm gonna
We
go
gotta
look.
make our reservations, y'all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look in the mirror. God, you do not look like Steve. You do not look like
Good.
Steve.
I don't want
Yeah.
to break the equipment, so I'm just going to sit here until you move me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Smart.
Anywho, appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll talk to y'all later.
Love you.
See you guys.
Bye.